The chalice lighter today is Lori Prudhomme.
Let us open our eyes to see what is beautiful. Let us open our minds to learn what is true. Let us open our hearts to love one another. Would you join me in the affirmation of covenant that's printed in your order of service?
Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other.
The weight of the world is love. Under the burden of solitude, under the burden of dissatisfaction, the weight we carry is love. Allen Ginsberg's song is unlikely to find its way into a Hallmark card, I think. To me, it sounds a lot like St. Augustine's Confessions. Augustine developed there a notion of rightly directed love and did not distinguish too finely between love and desire. Some of what he confessed about his own struggles with love suggests that he might well have appreciated Ginsberg's song. Unlike the Buddha, who taught detachment, to be moved by neither fear nor desire, Augustine thought that we cannot help but be moved, that to be alive was to be in motion. You have made us for yourself, O Lord, and our hearts are restless until they rest in thee, he wrote. That the best we can do is to direct our love toward the worthiest things. Ginsberg wrote, "The weight of the world is love." That poetic line sums up the whole mystical aspect of love, the experience of it. We are solitary and social creatures. We need one another's company in so many ways. Can we love one another? In how many ways? What ways are best? Can we bear the burden of loving one another responsibly in the best of ways? Can we bear this weight any way but wearily? And yet we cannot lay the burden down. The weight of the world is love. Rather than a creed, an idea or story about the world to believe in, we set store in covenant, in a promise of right relationship, a promise about loving one another in the best ways. Love is our teaching, and it is the weight of this faith. What moves it is life, the actual life we experience separately and together, and we share it through our presence to one another. The Christian mystical tradition emphasizing sacred experience has from generation to generation been expressed in terms of the presence of God and of human presence. How do I relate to life and the highest values and deepest meanings that I find in it? How do I relate to my neighbor? To those questions, the great mystics devoted their hearts, minds, and lives. The key scriptural text of mysticism in medieval Western Europe is found in the Song of Songs, chapter 2, verse 4, second half of the verse. The Song of Songs, a love poem, is thought by some scholars to have been included in the Bible because it was a popular text to read at weddings. Mystics read it as an allegory of love between God and the human soul. The original Hebrew text of that verse, Song of Songs, chapter 2, second half of verse 4, has been variously translated. It is difficult to translate. There are 3 words. The first means a flag or a banner. The second is a preposition that can be rendered as over or upon, and like those English words, it is used in a concrete sense to indicate physical location. The chalice is upon the table. Or in a more abstract sense, like concerning. In English, we might equally say, my thoughts concerning that, or my thoughts upon that. And it often creates a connotation, this word, of resting, of weight. The third word is invariably used in the Hebrew Scriptures to mean human love toward a human object, such as the love of neighbor. Now it gets more complicated. Hebrew is a language that stuffs its parts of speech into the words that are on the page. You kind of have to tease them out. Embedded in the first word, the one that means flag or banner, is the possessive pronoun his. So it's his flag. Embedded in the second word is the pronoun me. So it's over or concerning me. One translation actually says, his flag over me is love, which is just mystifying, not mystical. The New Revised Standard Version has it as, his intention toward me is love. Now, to restore the poetic image, we might say, his standard concerning me is love. Now, back in the 4th century, perhaps the most poetic moment of the whole Christian tradition was when Jerome translated this verse into his Latin Vulgate as ordinavit in me caritatem. He set love in order in me. He set love in order in me. That is the translation Western mysticism took and ran with. Western mystics drew on similar interpretations by earlier Christian thinkers, such as Origen, a 3rd century monk and scholar. According to Origen, learning the different degrees of love, that is, loving the proper objects in the right way, means loving God without measure, for God is infinite, loving our neighbors as ourselves, loving enemies, though not as ourselves, because it's hard to imagine them as ourselves. In short, ordering all human affections according to the truth of the Scriptures. That's what Origen was after. Origen was the first to make the order of love an important element in theological speculation. He's also anachronistically called the first universalist. Later, Augustine, and especially the 12th century mystics, made much of this idea. In the 12th century, the Cistercian monk Bernard of Clairvaux laid it out this way. If we love the things that should be loved, and if we love more the things that should be loved more, and if we do not love the things that should not be loved, love will be set in order. It is the same with the other affections. They are to be ordered in this way. In the beginning, fear, then joy. After this, sadness. and in the end, love. This line of thinking about love bears affinities to Aristotle's idea of virtue, that virtue consists of a balance of feelings. Aristotle's definition of courage is a well-developed capacity for feeling confidence and fear in the right places at the right times and in the right degrees of intensity. That would be how to put fear in order. Likewise, joy can get out of order. On the one hand, it can be just giddiness. On the other, it can be a narrow sense of satisfaction that dulls our compassion for others. Or it can be set in order through gratitude. So fill out those little pink cards. Sadness can get out of order. Grief can overwhelm us. Or in shock, we can feel nothing. Or it can be ordered through an acceptance of loss, or even commitment to preserve something out of that loss. In the same way as these other feelings, love can be like the magic potion that possesses two people, or it can be just a game, or it can be the door to the soul and the gateway to mutual nurture and companionship, the antidote to our feeling of separateness. For the mystery of love, its mystical dimension is that although we feel separate, we are connected. And all of this is in keeping with the value of self-culture that Channing and Emerson and others in our tradition taught and preached. Salvation by character, it's been called. Salvation by virtue, by courage, by compassion, by gratitude, by acceptance, by commitment, by growth and nurture, by companionship and community. Never read that on a candy heart, did you? The final wish is love, wrote Ginsberg. Cannot be bitter, cannot deny, cannot withhold. If denied, the weight is too heavy. Must give for no return, as thought is given in solitude and all the excellence of its excess. The final wish is that the depth of who we are is present to each other. What we call love is not love in the mystical sense unless that is so. Love is not selfish, but it is also not self-abandoning. In love, we are fully present. Or if we're not, we're called to be. Love is our teaching, and our faith calls us to be fully present to one another as much as possible. We all know that, feel that, and strive for it. We practice it whenever we gather. One way to practice it deeply, plug coming, is in covenant groups. The UU theologian Tandeyaka has said that covenant groups are a spiritual practice for a non-creedal faith. She's also said salvation is not a solo act. We are social beings. We grow and are nurtured in community. She emphasizes the importance of an embodied practice, a meditation, or something that uses the senses to ground you physically as a means to being more fully present to others in the group, feeling your feet on the floor, holding onto a stone, that sort of thing. Yes, wrote Ginsberg, that's what I wanted. I always wanted. I always wanted to return to the body where I was born. The return to the body, to substance, to weight, to experience, to the weight we carry. the way to the world as we know it, the return to love. From there, we can be present to one another, to community, to nurture and growth, to the burden we bear, to love. So may the ministry we share lead us to love one another in the best ways and to grow in our understanding of love. May the community we share lead us to help one another as best we can and to grow in our understanding of human need. May our work together be rich and full, guided by the teaching of this faith, by love. So may it be. Amen.
I invite Jeannie Brown, our chalice lighter, back up to extinguish our chalice. Please join in saying our closing words, which are in the order of service. Go out into the world in peace, have courage, hold on to what is good, return to no person evil for evil, strengthen the faint-hearted, support the weak, help the suffering, honor all beings.
And in all of this, may love be our guide.